Alright, so before we begin, I've got anime in packages, but first I've got some Nintendo Switch Premium Limited Run stuff, Shantae and Shantae Risky's Revenge. So I already had both of these on 3DS, but I went ahead and got them because I had the other Shantae titles on the Switch. So now this has everything. Now I've already taken these out and looked at most of the content, but it's limited run games. Still kind of nice to pull everything out and take a look at all the cool features that I accidentally dropped on the ground. And so, we got the Shantae box here. We got a map of the overworld. Pretty cool stuff. I'm gonna set that aside. Okay, that wasn't much of a set, but so for starters, we've got the game itself. Nice thing, but as this is limited edition, it came with a steel case, which kind of makes me wish I had limited editions of the third and the fourth game, because now I have the first, the second, and the fifth game steelbook, but not the third and the fifth. But oh well. I'll put the manual and the limited run game card in there. You can see I've been holding on to the soundtrack, first game, which this is a pretty good soundtrack in my opinion. It's definitely one of those very Game Boy Color-y era sort of sounds, but one of the reasons this series fascinates me is what it did on the Game Boy Color. I would not have thought would have been as immersive and complete for a Game Boy Color game. So we've got a coin here. Let's see. Okay, if I do that, maybe I can help y'all see. It's Shantae on the coin there. We've got some chain stuff, including her, and then an interesting little pixelated pin. And last but not least, I'm going to put this over here. I have to sort this stuff a little carefully. We have a poster, which is pretty much a big version of the cover art, which you can't really see too well here, but at least you can get the general idea. And here's the map, upside down of course, but the world map on the back, so you could choose whichever you would want to display, which is pretty cool. And Risky's Revenge Director's Cut is pretty similar. I don't remember it being as good of a game as the first one. Not bad per se, but not blow your mind like I thought the first one kind of was. I think part of it was that it felt like they had maybe taken a bit out of the game. But you got Shantae Risky's Revenge. Like, I think they removed the dancing mechanic, which they've hesitated to put back in, but it's one of those things where it kind of was fun because it kind of felt like it was just the way she had fun. See, like I said, another steel box, and this one with card manual game. I'll just move this coin up here and start moving these off the side, because we've also got the original soundtrack, and maybe I'm not remembering it as well. But it as a series has been entertaining and fun. Here we have Shantae again and Risky's Revenge. I keep thinking these are keychains, but maybe they're not. In fact, that's a little thing. Oh, I see. So this would be a stand. So this is actually an acrylic stand. You know what? Yeah. We're going to open up this one and the other one. I thought they were just a thing, but no, they're acrylic stands, which means that I've only ever seen like a couple of these, but that's the name Shantae, and there's a little indentation there, and then you eventually find it and stick that there. Yeah, it should either be like that or like that. really hard to tell if they're supposed to be a direction. That fit in. See, that stands just like that. And I know this isn't anime proper, but this is still, you know, the kind of thing that people who are fans of anime would probably generally consider things they would want to get, maybe? Those are actually kind of cool, then. I get to put those up. They don't just sit around and start taking up space in a storage thing. Let's see, we've got another Shantae coin. You can see Shantae herself there, and we've got another pin. This makes me think that all of them, all four of the first ones, maybe came with pins. And I might be unfortunate enough to just not ever get a chance to get those, but oh well. I know there's definitely more to unfold there. And I thought I succeeded, and sorry, I did. You know, it's this picture. And the back side of this is Shantae in a swimsuit. Bikini in particular. Alright, well that's some pretty cool game stuff. Anime stuff, this week's actually off to a pretty good start. This first box is definitely a much weirder packaged box. And since I see some stuff there, I think those are... I think that's stuffing, but I'm going to be very careful while opening this. Yeah, that's definitely a bubble. Okay. And this is apparently the bottom, but a stranger way to package it, but look. Earthenware sealed air. Now we've got to pop those big bubbles. What in the world? Oh, yeah, receipt. And y'all don't need to see that. I can. This up. Just making sure there wasn't another thing there. And then finally, last but not least, since these scissors have not gone far, I can just do that. My hair would try and grab the camera, but we can just take this out and put this up here. And finally, start looking at the anime. The Legend of Hei Blu-ray plus DVD. Protector of Spirits. So I think this is probably a movie. I see a Region A there. Teaming with detail animation that has been mastered on all points. That's actually kind of cool seeing looking thing there. I guess it makes sense. For some reason I was thinking that the titular character was maybe the boy on the shoulder, but no, that doesn't make sense. The focus is definitely on this character, and that's a kind of companion character. Although we do see them together a whole lot on both the DVD and the Blu-ray, even though that doesn't really mean much me saying that. What am I looking at back there? Some sort of interesting animals. Kind of gives me a little Jungle Book vibe. Not necessarily in the storytelling, but rather in the kind of presentation of the animals. Of course, this gives me Well, actually, it makes me think of the Jetsons, and makes me think futuristic, but I don't think it's that. Interesting. Next up, we have InuYasha Set 5 Blu-ray. Set 5. And taking a look at this, I have no idea where in InuYasha it is. It's definitely one of the issues with the series where, from a just looking at it perspective, once you know that Miroku? No, was that the monk? I don't know, the bad guy. Drawing a blank on the name. And once you know he's there, it seems like he's there forever. We've got, of course, Kagura of the Wind. Kikyo's brother. You know, it's kind of hard getting old and just knowing that your knowledge about stuff just seems to fade. And I think a lot of that is actually more just, you just get exposed to enough stuff that you realize how much... Who the fuck is that? Because, you know, I was saying that while looking at this and saying, okay, and can I remember all these characters' names? Well, of course there's chocolate and vanilla. Cinnamon. The Maine Coon coconut. Red Bean. Although I don't remember what her actual name is. And I think that character, I don't know. Well, I'm kind of curious because this is a series instead of just a one episode pilot. Oh, look at that. It's region A and B. So anybody that would hope to import this, you're in luck. English dub if you care. I was just looking to see if special features here. Textless opening song, textless ending song. Yeah, you know, I was kind of curious if the OVA version of the anime was maybe released here. Although, now I think about it, I do already have that on Blu-ray. So, in advantages, my brain's just like, why are we still doing anything? And, yeah, definitely tired. Okay, we've got disc 1. Disc 2. With all the same artwork from the front. Oh, look at that. So a little more either underpants or swimsuit, but from this angle it looks more like underpants. It looks like tracksuits and then maid suits. Oh, and I guess sister. Yeah, I never mentioned sister. The sister's there. In an anime about cat girls, the sister is, of course, still a trope. Next up, we've got Sakura Wars, the animation. And given that I don't recognize the character designs at all, this is not a release on Blu-ray of one of the older Sakura Wars. This is another series. I think in this, probably in the same franchise. Although, I'm taking this sticker off to see if there's any more hidden cat girls underneath there. Say sexy, but the last one wasn't sexy so much as just adorably cute and you'd want the head pat, but the question is, yeah, don't miss this highly anticipated addition to the Sakura Wars franchise. Yeah, there we go. I was gonna say, if there's mechas in it, then yeah. I see a region AB, so, you know, those of you liking to import or reverse import. Actually, no. Reverse import would just be region A because Japan is also region A. Region B means that European folk can import it. Okay. Which reminds me, that's a complete series. That says complete series there. Now, if these are supposed to be the same characters, well, maybe she looks vaguely familiar. But I was going to say that these characters are completely unknown to me. Which, I actually think they are probably new characters. I guess looking at the front, that character, the white-haired one, I don't think there was any character like that in the old one, but it's been so long that I could just be goofing and wrong. Karakuri Circus. Which is interesting, because, you know, this actually isn't a bad cover by any means. And it is a very tenacious cover, which means I'm going to have to go and get the metal edge. And that one required a little friction as opposed to I can also feel it's a very stuffed package, and the plastic is decidedly being uncooperative. There we go. Guess that was all off. Region A only. That's 30 episodes. Subtitle only. The mission is to kill one. And I know the stuff back here kind of got me curious. Hard to tell what I'm looking at. Like there's another demonic angelic thing. 36 episodes. Definitely a strange series. And last but not least, we have Cannon Busters complete series. I don't know. I think maybe I cut myself trying to open up one of these DVDs somewhere in there. Got a little bleeding underneath the thumbnail there. And that would be a first. So, kind of surprised. Oh, another Region A+B. English dubbed. Limited edition Cannon Busters. And I know I had somebody ask me why when I'm going to get the bigger limited edition stuff. Holy shit, this is stuck on there. I'd almost think it wasn't meant to come off, except... Oh my god, this glue. What's wrong with glue? Jesus. It's a good thing I'm not trying to save this piece of paper. I'm just trying to get it off without it being permanently stuck to the box set. But that said, what the hell? What kind of fucking glue did they use for this? This is not your normal glue. Can't even get it off. Not that I have any idea of what these characters even are. It doesn't say the name of the show anywhere on the box itself. I'm going to put this here so I can put this upside down and start going like this. Okay, I was having trouble discerning her body shape because I thought the inside of this cloak was her body, but it's this white thing here, which is a little weird because it looks like she has something in her pockets. Very bulbous. Could be padding of some sort. I don't know what kind of show this is. And with the opening like this, or with a cover like this, you know, it could be something mecha. Just not trying to show that. I don't think it's mecha. Something about the character designs doesn't strike me as very mecha. Why did they both say 15 there? What the hell does that mean? There's a bunch of numbers. So it seems like it's more relevant to the series than anything, because look, he's got a bunch of fucking numbers on him. What's up with the number 15? That's weird. Not necessarily wrong, just weird. And then next up we've got okay, you know, I can't help but think that part of it is I'm wondering if these are actually US releases. This is a manga entertainment release. It's regions A and B. And I think that's just the way they do their... Oh. It looks like whoever that is can open their mouth pretty wide. None of this says... I'm kind of curious looking here. Like that says 1, 2, 4. So it looks like it's regions 1, 2, and 4 as well as A and B. So, you know, DVD regions 1, 2, 4. Huh. Philly the Kid, Dead or Alive. $10 million bounty. There is something else in here. Okay. It's a Pinfinity animated music, augmented reality pin. Might be a reference to something in the show itself, but let's go. My back hurts from punching over doing these videos, but you know what? Let's go. Especially since this seems to be a special release, one in which I did not anticipate that it's a little more Eurocentric, but it's apparently been given a worldwide release. Do I try to get them back in? You know, I'm not going to try to get them back in there. I'm just going to get them in here. And then get this in there. Get this in here. And then, last but not least, we're going to take a quick look at this little booklet. Storyboards. Some artwork. Well, there we go. And I don't know what I'm going to do about this glue. This is some really annoying glue. I'm playing around with it down here and it's not coming off. Don't know if this is standard UK glue because this ain't no American glue. Alright. Here's this week's anime DVD collection update. Alright. First up, we've got Gate. You know, my Friday friend, you know, we watched One Piece last week, so this week we returned to Gate. Unfortunately, we had enough time to just watch the first 3 episodes. It's very possible that if the other Friday friend comes next week, then maybe I'll introduce them to Invincible. I'm not sure if they will want to watch it, but I do want to at least introduce them to it. But, you know, for Gate, you know, I finished it. It was just the last 3 episodes, so there wasn't too much about it. If anything, I kind of realized us watching it that the show kind of rushes a little bit at the end. Not like rushes going too fast so much as a lot of things happen all at once. It doesn't feel like it unfolds as much as the rest of the series. Like maybe they underestimated how much they needed to do at the very end, or maybe there wasn't as much they could make interesting in the end, so it just kind of went a little plot, just to kind of, you know, march to the end of at least the first season. I don't think there's been a second season yet, but anyways, I don't know if I remembered thinking that when I last watched it, so it's at least worth mentioning here, you know, that it felt, you know, like it kind of marched to the end. So it wasn't the best material, but it wasn't the best material of the series, but it wasn't bad. It just kind of, you know, the pacing felt interesting. Next up, I tried to watch Infinite Dendrogram, and I can't say it's a bad series, but I can say that as a series, it does a really bad job of starting out, at least. Like, it's horrifying because I kind of wanted to like it. And you know, last week I was speculating, oh, is this a Memoirs or is this a medieval fantasy world? You know, either way, they're in a medieval fantasy setting, but one of them is they're playing a video game, the other one is, oh yes, there are people there. And it turned out to be a video game. And that in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that it probably shouldn't do what it did at the very beginning. I know they want to try and make it sound really neat when they say, it's a world of infinite possibilities, anything could happen, but that's actually really bad. Like, at that point, I know they want to make it sound like it's really cool, but it's not really an exploration of the technology so much as it's setting up a story where it's just like, oh yeah, and now anything could just happen for no reason and you wouldn't be surprised, which is bad. But then it shoots itself in the foot by saying, oh, there is no purpose to this game, it's whatever you want to do. And to me, that actually doesn't sound like an exciting video game. That sounds more like, let's take something like Minecraft, where you think, okay, well, if you play Minecraft for the first time, it can seem directionless. But I think you could actually say that with Minecraft, you play that game because you're going to start and you're just going to want to survive in this nature. This weird nature, but a nature nonetheless. And, you know, that's a pretty straightforward thing. And that's also why a lot of, I think, medieval fantasy shows tend to naturally work out. Like, they don't always work out, but they give you a situation where you're like, okay, these people actually have to struggle more to live, and, you know, there are different, more divided, just natural divides that happen that encourage conflict. And, you know, I think that's why medieval fantasy works as a setting and why a lot of people do it. But this, when you start by saying, oh, you can do absolutely anything, infinite possibilities, it's just like, all of a sudden, from a storytelling perspective, you're not really giving any reason to be curious. You're not even setting up so that the technology is blowing this person's mind. Because first of all, in order to really do that, you kind of have to do some comparison and set up. But it's just, he just starts playing and being a little surprised, but also aware of what's going on, which makes it all not really work from a storytelling perspective. They give him something called an embryo, which he seems to already know about, and it's like, oh, it's not this mysterious thing? So he's not curious about it, so why are we curious about it? I guess because we don't know, but we haven't been given reason to believe that the embryos would do that. It's like, well, they're probably setting it up so that something fortunate happens to him. And kind of, but not really. And that's a problem. So, beginning of the episode, they already established there's no goal to this show. And it's maybe not that they're necessarily trying to say that, but that's kind of what they unintentionally said. And by the end of the first episode, okay, his embryo is turned into a girl. I kind of commented how there seem to be pairs of people on the cover, and that's because there are pairs of people in their embryo. Which, you know, as you can kind of guess, oh wait, his embryo turning into a girl, isn't that notable? Like, it isn't even rare, it's just kind of uncommon. Like, his brother's like, oh yeah, I know some people that have also had that as well. It's a humanoid type. And while I do appreciate the fact that they are trying to set up the NPCs, and they're calling them something else, they're trying to set up the NPCs as someone we should care about, and to a certain degree we do, but not to the degree that I think the show really wants us to. They want us to establish that when this important NPC's sister dies, that AI character is just gone from the world, period. And it sounds like bad game design, which is why it should be something that isn't related to game design, I guess. You know, it's kind of like they're trying to set these things up, but I don't think they actually work just on a surface level. And it's like, okay, well, that's just the first episode. Sometimes first episodes are, you know, they trip up a little bit, and that's why the 3-episode suggestion exists. You give something 3 episodes, you kind of know if you're going to want to continue going for sure.
And I never finished episode 3 because it kind of sort of started turning into this... Okay, it's not that he kind of started to gain a goal, but the goal is kind of just get good. Which seems like an arbitrary... Like, the reasons for it feel like an arbitrary limitation of... Oh yeah, then you won't be able to participate in this event and you won't be able to save the NPCs. When they need to be establishing something like... Maybe the NPCs aren't supposed to be so intelligent, and then they're like, oh, well, we got to protect this thing, but there's people that aren't. Or something like that. And maybe they are doing something like that, but they never really expressed or explained that in the first 3 episodes. Best they got you is there's other people who are like, well, our attempts to manipulate this game aren't quite going the way we were hoping they would. Oh well, I guess we should just worry about this new character. Even though it's not like he's bad, but they're not giving substance to why they should be worried. At least with something like Bofuri. You know, they establish the main character is just kind of being disrupted to their world, even though there's problems with that. But at least that one kind of establishes, okay, she has a goal, she just wants to get her defense up, and we see from the first episode, her doing that for some reason just causes fun things to happen. Whereas for him, the best we kind of get is he doesn't even hang around with the characters he meets, he just hangs around with his weapon, and she likes to. She wants to level up. So she's not like a total drag of a person, but it's sort of like the relationship is just sort of, here you go. And it's not as bad as that, but it kind of has that sort of artificial feel to it, which is unfortunate because, like, are we cheering on them becoming stronger? What does them becoming stronger even mean? The problem I sensed after that, and this is why I just kind of drifted off from episode 3, is instead of really building up a core for what can we expect from our characters? Oh, they're just going to level up? What? It doesn't really say, oh, well, they're going to figure out how to use this skill that's really rare or anything like that. It's just sort of, they are just there, and they are just hanging out, and they are just leveling up, and it's a bit like watching my Twitch streams, you know? Maybe actually even worse than that, because at least with the Twitch streams you can say, he did some preparation over the past week to kind of be at a place, and they're joining and figuring out a direction and immediately doing that thing. But you know, if you were just watching me play tonight, I was just kind of staring at armor for a couple of hours, trying to figure out how I was going to put this thing together, and slowly do that, and then figuring out, okay, I guess I need to kill 1 Chameleos. And that's literally the only action I did tonight with Monster Hunter Rise. So it'd be more like that part of it, except that the show, you know, it's trying to introduce characters, and while they're neat, again, as someone that's trying to watch an anime and get into it because of the story it wants to tell me, you know, it's doing a bad job of that, and it's not even really giving me much of anything else to latch onto, which is unfortunate because it looks pretty cool, and it's not like don't like the characters, it's just that I'm having trouble caring. So it's really quite unfortunate because I know someone was saying this was cool, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of cool moments in it, but it starts off on a really bad foot, unfortunately. And then last but not least, Babylon, which I've given the first 3 episodes to watch, and I actually say it's better. Now, I think it has some problems, but they're not like storytelling problems so much as they are sometimes, I think I've described this as a kind of pretentiousness that kind of leaks out through some anime that want to sound smart but actually say things stupid. And I think one of my favorite go-tos is with my romantic comedy Snafu, or my teen romantic comedy Snafu, I think it was. I can't remember if there were other good names to reference that by. But Hachiman, in one of his rants, he talks about how being social doesn't work. He wants to be a bear because a bear is a solitary creature. And I point out that, you know, that doesn't actually work from a logical perspective, because really a bear is not a solitary creature. We think of it as one big thing that just kind of survives very well on its own. That's true. But a bear is still a colony of cells. And those cells, by working together, ensure that something which has their genes eventually comes along and does stuff. And so cells, multicellular organisms exist because cooperation as a strategy is just really fucking good. And this is also why you have plenty of species where, when they're advanced enough such that they can be social, they start becoming social. And this is why not even humans are the only social creature on the planet. We've got plenty of other things out there. And a lot of the reason why humans as a species succeeds is not because any one person says, well, I can be a one-man tank. Because even when you get down to it, and there's a little bit of socialism in here, but it's not necessarily that you should think only that route. But there is this idea that nobody's success is their own doing. I know to a certain degree people like to say it is and pretend it is, but at the end of the day, you know, first of all, you can't make a lot of money if you don't have people to buy your stuff. And second of all, you probably can't have people that are able to afford the stuff that you purchase if you don't have a strong middle class and, you know, kind of society building concepts like that. And the issue is that doesn't mean that the person who has all the money should have absolutely all of it taxed and given to absolutely everybody else. In fact, there can be tremendous problems economically with doing that. But it does mean that you shouldn't be so pretentious to think that all of us are here on this planet alone. To some degree, we're all helping each other, and we have to remember that it takes a town, it takes a community to raise an idiot or something like that. I don't know. And I guess that's a big overarching thing. There's a lot of ambiguity there, and anybody who claims to have a right answer is probably wrong. And that includes Hachiman saying, oh, well, I want to be a solitary creature. Well, he can't be, even if he really wanted to be, because even if he moved out into the middle of nowhere and did his own hunting and stuff, you know, at some level he's probably benefiting from certain dangers being hunted so that they're not as numerous. You know, because humans and bears, for example, don't coexist very well, so the numbers of bears are probably kept a little in check, and you would have had all the knowledge he would have gained from other people throughout the course of his life in order to be able to do that stuff, and, you know, just other things people invented and stuff, so, yeah. And I mention that in the course of Babylon because it doesn't seem to be heavily reliant on that, but it does have a few small moments in it that make me think that it's got that. I think one example I can talk about. So, you know, you can't tell from the name and looking at whatnot, but the basic idea of this anime is it's about a prosecutor's office who's beginning to look into some potential election fraud, but as they dig underneath the covers, they find something that's a little more nebulous and strange than expected. And I don't want to explain much more beyond that, especially since I haven't seen the full details of that. But I do know who the antagonist is, and I have to say that they're actually pretty interesting. I think I know who the antagonist is. I have to say, they kind of remind me of the Joker, but not in a laughing at the tragic life jokes sorts of thing, but more like that the Dark Knight, the part of that where you kind of felt like there was this thing thinking underneath the covers and had a smile on its face, but it was dangerously calculating. You thought you had them somewhere, but they were already 10 steps ahead of you. And that, you know, kind of makes it it kind of makes it a head versus head Sherlock versus Moriarty sort of show, except it's about a prosecutor's office, and I don't know what yet, but, you know, first episode, they kind of gave you some of the direction of this stuff is just weird and feels a little creepy and what's going on here. And you just sort of follow that. But, okay, so that's the anime in general. The thing I was thinking about that's like an example of what seems to be a small, not mistake, but flaw with it, that it's easy to overlook. You know, it's just one of those things where at some point they were talking about, oh yes, isn't it a good thing that we would have the ability to have drug laws that that make it easier to get drugs out quick, and it's like, what? I mean, you could make an argument that maybe current things are too slow, but for the most part, a lot of these things exist because drugs aren't some magic fucking cure-all that just suddenly, your fever got put into the trash bin over there. Congratulations. Instead, it's more like they're trying to do things that have different interactions with different parts of the body and different people, because not all people are the same, and you kind of have to figure out what is our risk profile. Is there a risk? I mean, there is always a risk profile. I mean, you know, you can overdose on anything. Like if you ate 400 tons of banana, you die from potassium radiation poisoning. Except of course you'd also die from, you know, eating 400 tons of bananas. And that's assuming I even remember the quote and the numbers right. But the entire point is, you know, everything has a lethal dose, especially since at a minimum there's only a certain amount of volume within the stomach, and you know, if the human body kind of poos, then too bad. You know, that's bad. But even with it, when it comes to just chemicals, usually there's trade-offs. Even with something like ibuprofen, which is pretty simple, I think, you know, there's a list of potential side effects. And some of the more scary ones, I think, have to do with potential stomach ulcers, which I think is why they recommend that you take ibuprofen with food, because I think it probably prevents it from, like, severely concentrating on a part of the stomach and creating an ulcer that then causes you to bleed out, which is what causes you to vomit blood or poo blood, and when you poo that blood that comes from stomach ulcers, it's going to be black. I know this is disgusting stuff, but this is important stuff to just remember, that if you ever see those sorts of symptoms, remember the fresher colored the blood is, the closer to that end of the digestive tract it is. So if it has to go through the entire digestive tract, it comes out horrible. But if it comes out kind of brighter, that means it's a shallower thing, and it's a lot of hints as to what's going wrong and whether or not it's a deep problem or a surface level, relatively speaking, problem. Blah 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 blah. And I think ibuprofen may also have some slight did maybe people say that it might have had some slight estrogenic effects or something. I don't remember that one too exactly, but I do remember there being some worry about some of that stuff. But you know, the point is, you know, ibuprofen isn't just some magic cure-all. Those don't exist because, you know, illnesses don't just exist in an on-off switch. It's a complication of your body choosing to react to things, or unintentionally choosing to react to things, and other things doing things to it. So they can be bacteria that are releasing poison. This is certain forms of E. coli, which is why E. coli tends to be a dangerous bacteria, because it reproduces really fast off of food in your gut, and your gut's actually designed to encourage E. coli, because I think you already have that in there naturally. It's just that there's some strains out there that produce poisons when they eat their food, and those are bad strains to have in our bodies. And you know, again, and even then, with the poisons maybe causing certain parts of the body not working right, there's also the body just doing stuff in order to get it out of the system in general, which is, you know, a lot of the most common side effects of food poisoning. And so you got all that stuff. You have things like cancer. Why don't we have a cure for cancer yet? Well, the hard reason for that has always been that there's multiple forms of cancer. I think there was something recently where maybe they accidentally hinted on something that may help as a almost universal cure-all. But I don't remember the details of that, and you know, that's always the sort of thing where you can hear the surface level, and it turns out that, oh no, they didn't actually discover anything new. You know, that's pretty common with cancer research, because when they're researching like certain animals and figuring out how to make them more resistant to cancer, I think they have this tendency to turn around and find out that humans are already doing that. You know, because we actually live kind of long, not like super long, like a lot of super long-lived stuff, but you know, it means that our bodies have found answers to some of that stuff, because certain lengthy ages are actually advantageous just because we are knowledge-based creatures. And I don't even mean knowledge-based like programming, but also like how to do stuff. It's like if somebody is trying to remember how to, you know, make a certain piece of clothing, and oh, nobody's made it in 10 years. Well, you know, somebody probably remembers. You know, we retain knowledge a little bit easier and survive better because of stuff like that. And that's why, long story short, I'm going on a really long rant tonight apparently. It isn't necessarily the case that making trials shorter so drugs come to market quicker is a good thing. Like anything in life, it's a risk trade-off where we're trying to figure out, do we know if it has any bad side effects in humans? Do we know if it's likely to have any bad side effects in humans? You know, different levels of confidence there. And, you know, if you administer something to the population at large and it turns out, you know, 30% of the population, you know, if you tested against 5 people, oh, all 5 people were completely cured no matter what, and we're all good. But then it turns out 30% of the population will die if they take your drug. That's a bad thing, because you might have saved, like, the thousands of people that came down with whatever disease you were treating, but you may have unintentionally killed tens of thousands of people trying to do it. And, you know, that's why it can take a while for things to get from, oh, we've got an idea to trial to execution. And there could be other things in there that get in the way, but it's not necessarily the case that you can just say, oh, yeah, so the drugs get out faster. It's like, yeah, the drugs that cure people get out faster, but so do the ones that don't quite cure people as well as we thought they did and actually harm more people than we thought it did. So it's kind of weird that it talks about it like it's this obvious thing. It's not even one character. It's like 2 or 3 characters say it, and a lot of characters are conspiring about it or something like that. And that's not the only thing like that, but that's the thing that stood out as just like, I can believe it. That's your own internal belief system, writer of the show, but in reality, I don't think that's a reason you can say, oh, therefore it's always good, therefore blank. And maybe that was just something wrong with the dub, but I don't know. I guess, to be fair, I don't know. But it also seems to be expressing these things that are just like, and I don't want to talk too much because I want people to watch the show and, you know, enjoy it for themselves. But it seems to be there, but outside of that, that doesn't seem to be the main point and doesn't seem to intrude on the main point a whole lot. I think this is kind of similar to... So, I mentioned I watched Invincible. I mentioned I didn't like Amber, and I didn't hate her, or I didn't like her as a person. I didn't mind the fact that she was in the show because it didn't feel like she interfered with it. And, you know, there's been a lot of videos and a lot of people talking about that, but it basically comes down to, you know, okay, so if people didn't like her, but as long as she didn't ruin the show while being unliked, that's fine. In fact, I would say there's this bigger hurdle in the show of, you know, the story of Monster Girl, which is a neat story arc, but it feels completely pointless because it has nothing to do with any of our main characters in the first season. And that could just be something where maybe in future seasons it's there, or it could just be that the people who made the show specifically selected that little story arc to kind of play out. But at the end of the day, a lot of the other stuff tends to tie together a lot better, where you at least kind of understand why the couple different story arcs that get... Oh, jeez. Why the couple different story arcs that get spawned from the very first episode kind of come together in the very last episode. And that's why Invincible is very satisfying. It's a valuable watch. It's a worthwhile watch. And, you know, there's just going to be elements in shows that are just like, of course the writer's sometimes an idiot, but the show can work despite that. And Babylon, I feel like at this point it is less at risk for some of those idiocy destroying the show, because the point isn't whether or not these characters' argument about drug laws and how long it takes them to go from trial to application. You know, that stuff is just a tiny moment in the show. The show is really about a prosecutor's office who's looking into this very suspicious, mysterious thing. They think there's killers afoot, and it's fine. It's, even though I'm just so ranty, I guess it's because yesterday I was not in a good mood, but I think I have babbled on enough in this video. I mean, can you not call it babbling? I guess it's more, it's not even meandering, it sounds more like ranting. So I've ranted enough. Y'all, have a nice week.